I spent 30 years as an appraiser of real property for the California Department of Transportation. I was a district branch chief, and I testified in court on land value and land use. And at around 2002, I started noticing that there was a planning revolution going on in the Bay Area, that I literally couldn't tell for sure what people could do with their property, even when I knew what the zoning was. And I would go to the planning departments and try and pin them down on what could someone do with their property, with their land. They literally wouldn't give me an answer. And I started seeing that really this wasn't just in San Francisco, that planning had changed. And around that same time, I was elected to do citizen oversight on a huge redevelopment project in Santa Rosa, California, where I owned some property. And as I looked into the redevelopment project there, I saw that the plans for it were fraudulent. The justification for it was fraudulent. And at first I thought maybe it was a mistake, that the government had made an error. And so I drew it to the attention of the government, and they immediately tried to get me off of that committee. They went around to other people who were on the committee and said, don't listen to her. And the more I found out, the more I realized that I needed to start a citizens group. And from that, we tried to get something on the ballot so that people could actually vote to see if they wanted this plan, which was actually going to destroy a huge portion of the city. And also redirect their property taxes for 35 to 40 years. So it's a huge project, enormous. Because of that, I started to research land use in a political sense. And as I looked deeper, found United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. Published by the United Nations. 300 pages, 40 chapters. Because it's just a green mass. It's an inventory and control plan. It's all about data collection, surveillance, data sharing. It's a management and control plan of populations. And it is designed to literally leave you no place to hide.
The meeting, first proposed to the United Nations by Sweden and approved by the General Assembly in 1968, attracted worldwide attention. In 4 short years, the topic of the human environment had gone from the back pages of newspapers to make headlines on page 1.
General Assembly of the United Nations asked the Brundtland Commission if they could come up with a plan to implement sustainable development worldwide.
It approved an Earthwatch program to measure and identify environmental problems on a worldwide scale, as well as an action plan to protect man and his habitat from further degradation.
And sustainable development was defined as development that meets the needs of the present while protecting the needs of the future generations. So it was assumed that, yes, everything we're doing now does in fact, threaten the ability of future generations to meet their needs.
This in itself represented a very significant step forward.
International laws to compensate victims of those forms of pollution that cross national boundaries.
All the countries of the world agree to it, so 178 countries plus the Vatican. It's a non-binding agreement. But our nations made it binding on us. Every country has a local Agenda 21 plan.
But how can I see it? What is the structure?
The 2 parts of Agenda 21, which is the urban part, smart growth, and the rural part, the Wildlands Project. And the Wildlands Project has basically wild carnivores coming back into the wild, corridors, buffer zones.
Herding people off the lands, literally, that 50% of all the land in every single state needs to be rewilded back to the way it was when Christopher Columbus stepped foot here.
We must convert at least 50% of the land area to wilderness, off limits to human beings.
It's about removing jurisdictional boundaries because, well, animals don't know where the boundaries are. So if you're going to have a free world for the animals, then you need to remove all borders. You know, the plan is to completely erase the 50 states, to move people into huge megacities that eclipse our Constitution. The cities themselves right now are giving themselves the power to make international treaties and agreements.
But who's really benefiting in getting us out of the rural areas, getting us into these dense cities?
Well, if you move people out of the rural and suburban areas and into the dense city centers, you can more easily manage and control them because they're collected in a concentrated area. These are called the 3 pillars of Agenda 21. This is social equity, the environment or ecology, and the economy. And where they are balanced in the center, that's supposedly sustainable. Social equity, that's really about balancing not just your local economy, so you're going to maybe take care of your local people. That's actually removing borders so that you can share your economic well-being with people who are less economically sustainable. The point of Agenda 21 is to level the economies of the world so that they are all equal. And that means bringing down the developed nations and bringing up the lesser developed nations. So that then when you have the nations all equalized like that, if you have more than one toilet in your house, you've got too much. You're using too much. So that justifies bringing you into the city, into a small unit where you can be, of course, managed. It's a corporate totalitarian plan so that they can move their goods without any restrictions on borders, so that there's no boundaries, no border restrictions, no regulations, so all laws are harmonized, and then you can literally have no stops on corporation. Then they can lower wages, they can move populations when they need to move workers. It's bigger than any other plan that's ever been proposed in the entire world. Of course, the Nazis tried, but they did not have the technological capability, and neither did the Soviets, and neither did, of course, the communist Chinese. But the difference is that now they do. In order to make a plan like that work, you need terror, and you need technology to spread the information everywhere. You know, so 9/11, that justifies total full surveillance. And climate change justifies, you know, getting everybody out of their cars where they have individual mobility and getting them out of the rural areas where they use too much water, too much energy. I actually think that they want to create the new Garden of Eden that would be off limits to most human beings. When your food can be grown essentially in a parking garage downtown, you know, where they're with hydroponics and other systems, there won't be any need to go into the rural areas.
It's not a stupid thought that humans will undergo the same management as the artificial plant in the closed units. Collected, regulated, efficient and obedient. And those were off the beaten track.
Red warning, you are in a no-go zone. Please turn around. You are under violations of the law. You entered a non-human area. Human rights do not apply here. We are forced to disable your data chip. 5, 4, 3, 2,